Welcome back. So, after all that boilerplate, just to set up Redux, get our first action creator going, we're finally gonna step into setting up Redux Saga in this lesson. So we're gonna do some imports, gonna set things up and apply the middleware, and get things started. Before I do that, I just think about what we're doing. So Redux is used for application state management. So we have a situation where we emit an action to fetch a list of records, but that takes time because it's an HTTP request, and we cannot just do it in a synchronous fashion, so we have to do it asynchronously. That is, first we emit the action to request the records. Okay, the records were requested, now we have to wait. We cannot right away dispatch another action. Success, we have to wait. And then how can we do that? We can do that using a middleware, a Redux middleware. So middleware, it's something like comes in between when we emit the action and when you handle it in the reducer. So when you emit the action, it's going to go through the middleware. So if the middleware cares about that action, it's going to do something. Otherwise, it just ignores it and passes on to all the reducers. Okay, so keep that in mind. Anyway, let's get going. So we're going to go to the text editor. Now we first have to install Redux Saga because we don't have it yet, right? If you go to the package.json in the project directory, the dependencies, there's Redux, React Redux, but there's no Redux Saga yet, so let's install it. Let's go to the terminal. I'm going to go to this new tab, clear the screen. I'm going to type npm install Redux Saga, Redux-Saga. So it might take some time to install that. So I'm going to explain what we're going to do next. We're going to go to the index.js file. That's the file where we inject the React app, where we set up the store and give it to provider. So we are going to import Redux Saga, the middleware, and then we're going to apply the middleware, and then we're going to run the Saga. So in Redux Saga, you have to run the Saga, which is going to be a file that we're going to create with some generator function definitions. Okay, you got it installed. So let's go back to the source code. And under src, we're going to go to index.js. Up here, Redux, we're going to import create Saga middleware. I just gave this name. You can give it any name you want. From Redux Saga. So this name is what they use in the documentation. So create Saga middleware. So here, before we create the store, we're going to create a variable called Saga middleware. So this variable is going to hold simply the call to create Saga middleware, like so. Okay. Now you have to somehow apply the middleware to the store. So we have a store right here. You can give it as the second argument. Instead of it being an object indicated in initial state, it can be, if you remember the documentation for Redux, create store. I'm here in redux.js.org, documentation for the create store helper. It has the argument called the enhancer argument. It's a function. You can give it an enhancer. One of the ways to get an enhancer applied is using the apply middleware helper. Okay, that's the guy we're going to use. Apply middleware from the Redux package. So let's get back to the source code, and we're going to call apply middleware like so with the Saga middleware variable. Now we don't have this, so we have to import it from where? From Redux. So I'm going to add apply middleware here. I'm going to import it from Redux. So we create the star with a reducer and the middleware applied. So that's great, but we also have to do something extra for Redux Saga. That's called run the sagas, but we don't have any sagas yet. But we can call saga middleware dot run with some sagas. We don't have it, but let's just pretend there's a variable called sagas. Let's define sagas. Let's create a new file right here called sagas.js. Now before I go into the implementation of this, let's backtrack a little bit. Back to index, and let's import sagas. Let's import sagas from ./sagas. So this file saga is going to contain all our sagas. Sagas are like generative functions that define a behavior for our middleware handling of the actions. So we got that here defined. That's great. Well, let's go here, and before we go on, let's review what we did. So first we import create Saga middleware from the Redux Saga. We call that to get the actual middleware variable, which in turn is passed to the apply middleware given to the create store. When you create the store, you apply the middleware here. And lastly, don't forget to run the sagas that we are going to define in the next lesson. Okay? So I'll see you then.